Hello, all. This is Dr. Sundaraman Chintamani. In the previous episode, we tried to understand more about the raw material for the refining and petrochemical industry, that is, natural gas, LNG, and crude oil. Let us see what are all the different kind of products that are produced in a refinery. The first and foremost product from a refinery is the liquefied petroleum gas. I think many of the common man would be knowing about LPG because it is widely used as a domestic fuel. It is basically a colorless and odorless gas. But in order to detect the leakage of LPG, mercaptans are added. Mercaptan is nothing but a compound of sulfur and which is allowed to be present, or in case if it is not present, then we try to add mercaptans so that the leak can be detected. Primarily, LPG is a mixture of butane and propane, and LPG, in terms of its density, it is heavier than air. Because of this particular property, LPG need to be carefully handled. Because it is heavier than air, LPG settles down in case of leakage, and since it's colorless and odorless, it's difficult to detect the leakage or the LPG cloud. Normally, LPG cylinders are made of steel and then they are circulated and they go back to the filling plant, so where the empty cylinders are refilled and again put back into circulation. But today, in some parts of the world, the LPG also comes in fiber reinforced plastics, FRP kind of material. And as I said, it is used as a domestic fuel, and LPG is also used as a petrochemical manufacturing purpose, and then finally it is also used as a auto gas. So now let's try to understand the different specifications for LPG. Here an exhaustive list is given. So these are all the different kind of specifications for LPG. But today I am going to talk only some of the key things. So here the vapor pressure is an important specification because if vapor pressure is more, then the storage and handling of LPG will be difficult. So a lot of safety aspects are associated with the vapor pressure. Then in terms of the other one is the volatility. So it is also known as a weathering test. That means when a LPG is taken in a measuring jar and it is allowed to evaporate, so almost 95% of the volume should get evaporated, and at that point of time, the temperature should be plus 2 degrees centigrade. So if 95% of the LPG sample taken is not evaporated, it means the LPG is heavier and it is not going to be 100 effectively be used as a fuel, because at the domestic front the LPG is getting converted from liquid state to the vapor state and used as a fuel. So hence this particular specification is important. Then the hydrogen sulfide presence, it should be nil. We will move on to the next product. The next product from the refinery is naphtha. Naphtha is a colorless liquid. Most of the common man may not be knowing much about naphtha because it is primarily used as a petrochemical feedstock or raw material for fertilizer, ammonia based fertilizer industry. It is an excellent petrochemical feedstock. There are several petrochemical compounds that are produced using naphtha as a raw material. And the other common man's usage, it is used as a solvent. Because of that property, it is being widely used in the dry cleaning services. Now let's see the specification of naphtha. So naphtha, the important specification is the ASTM distillation. So this is a comprehensive test where the sample is taken and allowed to get vaporized, and finally the condensed liquid is collected in a measuring jar. At different percentage of a liquid being collected, the temperature is being noted down, and this is essential for the petrochemical industry to know the exact composition of naphtha. Then here also the rate vapor pressure is very much important. Then of course the other properties are there. The third and the most important product from a refinery is gasoline. Gasoline in India we call it as petrol. In some countries they call it as a motor spirit, or sometimes it is shortly called as mogas. It is again a colorless liquid, But in order to identify the adulteration, a dye is deliberately added in certain countries, and it is primarily used as an automotive fuel and used for light commercial vehicle. What are the properties? So the properties are, the distillation test is very much important, and again the distillation test, it is giving a lot of other details. So by knowing the distillation test details, we will come to know whether this fuel is going to be effectively be used in the two wheeler or a light commercial vehicle. The starting is going to be with ease, and the acceleration is going to happen in a expected manner. Then the important test is the research octane number or octane number. So octane number is the in India. So it is the motor spirit or gasoline. The octane number is expected to be 91. So if the octane number is less than 91, then it is not going to give you mileage, and it is also going to be harmful for the internal combustion engine. There are grades of gasoline available which are used for the sports car, which are used in formula car race. Then the raid vapor pressure is very much important because for the safe handling and the storage of gasoline. So if you see the list here, there are around 21 comprehensive tests are being done for gasoline. So whenever I mean a test, so these tests are defined by the standard bureaus of the respective country. For example, in India, all the specifications are defined by the Bureau of Indian Standards, which is in short called BIS. So here, if you see the specifications, for every specification, there is an engineering unit, and the scale is defined either minimum or maximum or a range. And each test has got some specific significance, and that because of that reason, in the refinery quality control lab, whenever a batch is ready, the complete test is done. Only when the complete test is done, the laboratory will give a batch number, and it will allow the particular parcel or the particular batch to be taken to the end customer. Even if one test is not meeting the specification, the entire batch is known as off-spec, and finally the off-spec batch need to be reprocessed or reblended and again retested. Then the next product is kerosene. Kerosene is not produced in all the parts of the globe, so it is only being produced in the developing countries, because in developing countries still there are villages where the illumination is a big issue. Kerosene is used as an illumination fuel, or it is also used in the kerosene stove. So most of the developed countries, there is no need for kerosene. They never produce kerosene in the refinery. So the dye is blended in kerosene to detect the leakage when it is blended with the other costly fuels. So here some of the important test or characteristics are flash point. Flash point is the temperature at which this particular vapor mixture is going to burn. So flash point is important in storing and handling of the fuel. So this is where minimum it should be 35 degrees centigrade. And of course the distillation test and the sulfur content test, they are also important when we are trying to market the kerosene as a product. Then we come across the next product from the refinery, which is known as ATF or aviation turbine fuel. Again, this is also a colorless liquid, almost similar to kerosene, but here the specifications are very much stringent, and it is used as a modern jet fuel. And ATF and kerosene are produced in refineries in batches based on the requirement. For example, 15 days the entire refinery may be producing kerosene, the next 15 days the refinery may be producing aviation turbine fuel. Not both the products are the same time, because both are taken or withdrawn from the distillation column in the same location, and there will be only one hydrodesulfurizing unit which will be used to remove the impurities from whether kerosene or aviation turbine fuel. Aviation turbine fuel, as I said, has got stringent specifications. The boiling point is very much important, and the couple of other tests like the doctor test presence of which is going to show the presence of sulfur compounds. Then we have other tests like a flash point is again important, like kerosene. Freezing point is an important test for aviation turbine fuel, because when the flight is flying at an altitude of more than 30,000 feet, so at that particular temperature, this fuel should not get frozen. So, because of that reason, the freezing point is very much important, and the freezing point defined in India is minus 47 degrees centigrade. Thermal stability at controlled temperature. This is an important test. Water separation characteristics. Water should not be present in aviation turbine fuel, because if water is present, the water at a high altitude may get converted into ice, and that may plug the fuel lines, and that is going to create a catastrophic incident. So, water presence should be nil, and then conductivity is also an important test for aviation turbine fuel. The next product from the refinery would be the other fuel for vehicles, which is known as high speed diesel or HSD. HSD or diesel is yellow in color, and it is used as a fuel for automotive, specifically for heavy commercial vehicles. It is also used as a fuel for diesel generator sets, DG sets, as a fuel. The important test for diesel is the cetane number, like how octane number is important for gasoline, cetane number is important for diesel. Then carbon residue is yet another test that is important. Then the third important test is the pour point. Pour point is the temperature at which the liquid ceases to flow. Since high speed diesel is used as a fuel for when the heavy vehicles travel at a high altitude, like mountains, where the temperature will be low, at that point of time the diesel fuel should not get flow of the fuel to the engine should not get stopped. So that is where the fuel pour point is an important aspect. Then copper strip corrosion and distillation, they are also other important tests for high speed diesel. Then we move on to lube oil. Lube oil is produced in a refinery. It is not produced in all the refineries, because to produce lube oil, you need a specific grade of crude oil, which is called lube bearing crude oil. And also, the refinery need to be constructed and designed in such a way to manufacture lube oil. For example, in India, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited (HPCL) and Chennai Petroleum Corporation Limited (CPCL). These are two companies which produce lubricating oils. And there are several grades of lubricating oils that are available in the market. Some of them, and if you see the trade names, there are multiple grades are available. But at a larger bucket, they can be classified as automotive oils, industrial oils, special oils, marine oils, etc. And the lube oils, the lube base stock is produced in a refinery, and the further processing happens in the downstream units in the same refinery, or sometimes plants known as lube refinery. Even after getting processed in the all the plants from the manufacturing plant, it is not still ready to be taken to the market. So there are lube blending units where additives are added to improve several properties of lubricating oil, and because of this reason why they are being processed in multiple units, and specialty chemicals are added, lubricating oils are generally costlier. Probably you can check the price of 1 liter of gasoline and 1 liter of lube oil, and you will be able to appreciate why lube oils are costlier. So just as I said, there are multiple grades of lubricant oils are available. I am just showing the sample oil, which is the two-wheeler engine oil. The important properties are kinematic viscosity. Viscosity is a property which is going to determine the flow characteristics of the lubricant. So since the automobile is going to be taken to colder region, the lubricants again should not cease. So once it ceases, then the engine is not going to perform properly. So that is why the viscosity is important. Then viscosity index, the next property, the viscosity index is the change of viscosity with respect to temperature. So when a change in temperature happens, for example, a vehicle moves from the plateau to the mountain, then there will be a drop in temperature. At that point of time, the changes in viscosity should not be so drastic. So that is what being referred as viscosity index. Then as usual, flash point is important. Pour point is also important because that is going to determine whether a particular temperature, whether the liquid or the lubricant is going to properly flow or not. Then the next product coming from the refinery is the furnace oil. Furnace oil is black in color and more or less it would resemble asphalt or bitumen. But compared to asphalt and bitumen, furnace oil would be freely flowing, but the appearance or the color will be almost similar to asphalt. And this is primarily used in furnace, and many a times most of the fuel oil is consumed within the refinery, because in a refinery there will be lot of heaters. All the heaters may consume fuel oil as one of the fuels. Probably there will be fuel gas fired heaters may be there, but most of the time the furnace or the heater would have a combination of fuel oil as well as fuel gas. The other names for fuel oil or furnace oil are bunker fuel and fuel oil. Here, the specifications for furnace oil, important specification would be the viscosity, the kinematic viscosity. If the viscosity is very high, then it is very difficult to pump them from one place to the other place, or even within the plant or inside the burner. So the viscosity is going to be a crucial important test, that is known as the kinematic viscosity. Flash point is important for safe handling and storage of the fuel, and the sulfur content. The sulfur content is going to determine the kind of pollutants when the furnace oil is being burnt in the furnace. So if more sulfur content is available, it is going to create lot of emission, and finally you are going to pollute the atmosphere. Here also the pour point is important. Then gross calorific value, because this is going to be an important factor where the end customer is going to determine whether this fuel will be useful for him or not. The next product from the refinery would be bitumen. Bitumen is also known as tar or asphalt. In some countries, it is known as asphalt, but the common people call this product as tar. Tar is effectively being used for laying roads, or it is also used as a coating material. Where all it is being used as a coating material? Whenever a metallic pipeline is buried by the oil and gas companies, so they give a asphalt coating for the pipelines so that water is not affecting the pipeline, and net effect the corrosion is not happening. And there are some places where the roofs are coated with asphalt. They are known as asphalt coated roofs. And again, here we have different grades of asphalt or bitumen are available. For example, the product which we are using it for laying or paving the common man's road will be totally be different from the asphalt which is used within an airport for the runway purpose. For the runway purpose, it is going to be different grade of asphalt. For the common man within the society, if you are going to use it for the asphaltic roads, then the specification will be different. So if it is for defense purpose, again the specifications will be different. So here the important test for asphalt are the kinematic viscosity, then the penetration index. Penetration index, this is going to determine whether the asphalt is appropriately be used as the effective paving material. Then of course ductility is also an important test, but in a refinery all test, whether it is a key test or a less important test, every test will be done in the quality control lab, because every test has got some significance from customer point of view. Only all the tests are clear, then the product is known as a spec product. Then only a batch number will be given, then final clearance will be given to be taken to the end market. Sulfur, of course, it is not a petroleum product, but since most of the crudes have the sulfur presence. So sulfur is known as an impurity within the crude oil. A refinery which can process sulfur bearing crude oil will obviously we have a sulfur treatment unit, sulfur recovery unit. So sulfur is primarily a byproduct, though it is considered as a wastage, but it is coming as a byproduct because sulfur has got premium value in the market. So this is coming as a byproduct when the crude oil is processed in a refinery. There are different grades of sulfur that are being marketed. One is molten sulfur or lump solid sulfur or pelletized sulfur. So different forms of sulfur are sold from the refinery to the end customer. It is used as a raw material in the manufacture of acid, fertilizer, drugs, rubber industries, paints, insecticides, detergents, paints, pigments, and explosives. So that is why sulfur is a premium product, though it is considered as an impurity in a refinery. Since it is obtained as a byproduct, it is also effectively be sold because it is giving a lot of money for the refining company. Sulfur is also used in the sugar production and as a modifier for bitumen. So today we try to come across a different kind of products that are coming from a petroleum refining plant. Remember, petroleum refining plant and not a petrochemical plant, because petrochemical plants, the term is very generic, and under petrochemical plant there will be so many plants will be there and so many products will be produced. But today we have tried to understand the different kind of products that come from a refinery. So the basic products that come from a refinery are LPG, gasoline, naphtha, kerosene, aviation turbine fuel, high speed diesel, lubricants, and furnace oil and asphalt. These are all the key products that come from a refinery. And of course, this is for any simple refinery. If it is a complex refinery, even a refining company, even from the refinery, lot of petrochemical products would be produced. For example, propylene, benzene, toluene, xylene. These kind of products will also be produced from a refinery. So today there is no big differentiation between a refinery and a petrochemical complex. Many of the large refineries they have a petrochemical complex within their premises, and of course yield from these plants will be a wide range of products. But today we try to understand only the basic products from the refinery, and we also try to understand the key specifications for each of the product, because each of them are very critical and vital. So without passing these tests, the product cannot be taken to the end customer. You may be running the refinery and you will be producing products, but unless they are tested and certified by the quality control laboratory, it is very difficult to be taken to the end market, or the possibility will be nil. So from that context, before trying to understand what is known as a distillation and what are all the different kinds of processes that are happening in the petroleum refinery, today we try to understand what are all the different kind of key products that are obtained on the refinery. So in the next episode we will try to understand more about how the refining activities are actually happening, the step by step process, how the petroleum crude is refined, distilled, and different kind of products are produced. So until then, see you. Bye. Thank you so much.